Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is the bonus footage from my time with both the G36 and MG36. 2 weapons this week means, well, I've got plenty of bonus footage left over, so I've got plenty of time for your questions and answers as taken from the comment section on the main video on Xbox Ahoy. And so, wasting as much time as possible, let's get on with the first question. Tom Foster, 1996, says, Stuart, what would you say is your favourite weapon manufacturer? Mine is H&K. Well, I mean, of course, H&K. They make some great weapons, but for me, of course, it has to be FN from Belgium. How could you say no to the FN FAL? How could you say no to the SCAR, the P90, the F2000, the 5.7, and the Browning High Power, amongst many, many other weapons? Truly a fine set of weapons, very prolific weapons manufacturers, and all of them are pretty gosh darn good, so yeah, that would be my choice. Fernal01 says, why do you still insist on using thermal scopes in the clips of Weapons of Modern Warfare? Wouldn't you suppose we can tolerate you not using frustrating attachments, because these videos aren't strictly weapon guides, but more so history guides? Well, I'm a completionist at heart, and when it comes to doing the Weapons of Modern Warfare, I mean, how much gameplay is enough? One general rule of thumb is, if I haven't completed all the weapon challenges, then I should probably keep on recording. So that's what I do. I finish off all the challenges left undone, which is why you see me using the heartbeat sensor a lot, because I generally don't tend to touch that. Thermal scope is the same. So yeah, in the case of the MG36 this time around, I only had maybe 50 kills with it, so I had pretty much most of the weapon challenges left to do. With the G36, I have used that fairly extensively, given that I've already done a weapon guide express for it, and I think I've used it as an example and a couple of time to kills. So for that, I think I only had maybe 2 or 3 weapon challenges left to do. I think one of those was the thermal, another was the heartbeat sensor. And what else was there? I can't remember. Oh, the hybrid scope, I had to use that one. So on top of that, because that might not have been enough gameplay with the G36, I also used my favourite attachments, which, well, it's the red dot sight, principally, because the iron sights aren't brilliant on the G36. So yeah, that's why, just to finish off the challenges, really. Okay, next up, Big2 Card says, what's the point of Hardline at this slot? I mean, it's already pretty awkward in team modes, but in free-for-all, it's just useless. You can't get assists. Of course, you're right. Hardline is pretty useless in free-for-all, to be perfectly honest. Which is why I almost never use it, which is why I had a whole bunch of challenges left to do for Hardline. Once again, I'm really just trying to finish off challenges. And I think I've done a few of the perks for Specialist, some of my favourite ones. I think Dead Silence and Steady Aim, I think they've been earned quite a lot of times. But Hardline, I never really touched with Specialist. It's useful in some cases. On the shotguns, it wasn't too bad. Although actually, thinking about it, I started with Hardline and got Sleight of Hand after 1 kill, so I could have both Marathon and Sleight of Hand. Extreme Conditioning, sorry. But yeah, for these clips, I just stuck Hardline on to do the challenge for earning it so many times. Fled Rantanen says, hey Stu, are there any time to kill episodes coming up? Possibly. That's the sort of thing that I am going to play by ear. The only thing that I definitely want to do over the next few weeks is to finish off the Black Ops series. Because, you know, it's there and it deserves finishing, doesn't it? There's, what, 12 episodes left? So not too far to go. I think I've got 16 weeks, maybe 15 weeks left of uploads. So 12 episodes, 15 weeks. That leaves me with maybe 3 or 4 slots left over. I might take a couple of weeks off. I might not, I don't know. I've got a couple of special videos planned for the end of MW3 season. But as to their precise nature, at this moment I'm not entirely sure. I will need to invest some time into the Black Ops 2 stuff as well. I need to develop the format for that. So as I said, I might take a couple of weeks off. You're probably going to see the first Black Ops 2 guides maybe a couple of weeks into its life. And then, of course, after that, we'll move into a weekly format, hopefully. So as for Time to Kill, it may fit in. There might be another episode, maybe even another 2 episodes. But Time to Kill is quite time-consuming to produce. And I may need that time to do other stuff. But as a series concept, like the weapons of Modern Warfare, I may very well revive it at some point in the future. Heck, I mean, it might even be a format that I'll revisit for a game that isn't Call of Duty at some point in the very distant future. It depends on, you know, what I'm doing, what I'm playing, that sort of thing. There are many, many variables. But Time to Kill is far from dead. Alright, next question. Irish Royal Gamer says, Stu, what would you say would be your top 3 FPS games of all time? What about top 3 of any genre? Ooh, tricky question. It depends. I mean, do we include a single-player experience? Or are we talking solely multiplayer as far as first-person shooters are concerned? I don't know, you see, I just don't know. Well, one of my favourites probably has to be Unreal Tournament. Probably the one that I played the most was 2004, I believe. I've played a lot of Bombing Run on Anubis. And I love the Instajib rifle. It's fantastic. Better than quickscoping, that's for sure. So, yeah, UT 2004. Let's call that one of my favourite FPS games. Other than that, Half-Life. Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. Oh, I don't know which is better. Single-player experience is probably, well... Yeah, I mean, obviously that is Half-Life. Half-Life Deathmatch is fun, flinging toilets at people, but its novelty wears off after a little while. So Half-Life's probably a single-player game, really, at its core. And yeah, that would definitely be one of my favourite first-person shooters. I'm going to lump those together, Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, because I don't want to separate them. Forced to choose? Oh, I don't know. I just don't know. Other first-person shooter games that I really liked, I liked Doom, of course. Didn't really have much of a story, though, but it was fun. Quake was also very, very good. I liked Quake a lot. Marathon on the Macintosh. Made by Bungie, in fact. That was the first game that I can think of that had dual shotguns. It had like these combat shotguns that you could flip cock. They were very, very similar to the Model 1887s from MW3, and they were remarkably good fun. As far as top 3 FPS games, alright, let's call it. Let's put, at number 3, let's put COD 4, because, you know, it's COD 4. And that was probably, yeah, I mean, it's the game that got me into Call of Duty multiplayer. I played all of the other CODs prior to that, but I never really touched multiplayer that much, so I just stuck on the single player. I loved COD 1 single player, that was fantastic, but no, COD 4, for the fantastic single player that it had and the fact that it got me into multiplayer, that's my number 3 choice. Number 2 choice, I'm going to say Unreal Tournament 2004. Just for the fact that it was remarkably good fun, fast-paced, and it had the Instajib rifle. Number 1, it is going to be Half-Life. I'm going to lump Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 together. They are just fundamentally really well put-together games that do the sort of the experience telling. Kind of, it's not a story, it's kind of an experience. A wonderful sort of form of the interactive arts where you don't necessarily have to have words to tell a story. You have a narrative based solely on experience. That's what Half-Life is. It's kind of a journey without words. So I guess those would be my top 3 first-person shooters. As far as my top 3 games of all time that aren't, well, just top 3 games of all time, full stop. My favourite game of all time is Civilization. I love that game. Again, I'm going to lump in Civilization 1 through 5 all as one entry, because fundamentally it's the same. So let's say Civilization in at number 1. Number 2, I don't know. I'm probably going to say UFO Enemy Unknown, or XCOM UFO Defense, as I think it was called in the US. That has to be definitely one of my favourites. These are all very tactical games. Apparently I like tactical games. I don't know why I play COD so much. And as for my third favourite game of all time, again, it's tough to narrow it down and sort of say decisively. I'm going to go with Chris Sawyer's Locomotion, which is basically, it's like a serious version of Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you sort of build cities and plan bus routes and stuff, and it's spectacular. I love Chris Sawyer's stuff. Roller Coaster Tycoon, of course, gets an honourable mention, but no, I definitely prefer Locomotion. It reminds me of a similar game that I used to love on the Amiga called A-Train, which is a Japanese game where you basically do town planning, it's kind of like SimCity, but with a greater focus on trains, scheduling, switches, that sort of thing. It sounds very dull, doesn't it? But it is, in fact, a fantastic game. Other honourable mentions, Populous 2 was always a favourite of mine. I've sunk a lot of hours into flattening lands and sort of making volcanoes and stuff in that game. Theme Park gets another honourable mention, although, I don't know, I couldn't go back and play that game. Not since Roller Coaster Tycoon, that's effectively replaced it. Other games I've played a lot of, I really liked Hired Guns. Hired Guns is kind of a game that not many people have heard of. It's kind of a four-player, it is kind of four-player. You've got four characters. The screens are divided into quarters, and it's like a Dungeon Master sort of game. But it's a Dungeon Master game with guns. Lots of guns. And it's set like in the future, and it's a very, very good game that I never actually owned. I had the demo, and I played the heck out of the demo. But I have since sort of played the full game, and it's a remarkable game. Wonderful. Other mentions, I like the Elder Scrolls games. I really do. I loved Oblivion, and I love Skyrim. Any game that you've spent, more than 100 hours on, in my book, is a good game. But, those are kind of my favourites. There are many, many other games. I've played so many games, and so many are good. But, let's call it. Let's say Civilization, UFO Enemy Defense, and Chris Sawyer's Locomotion. Those would have to be my top 3 games overall. And I think the mark of a good game is a game that's not only fun when you play it, but it's also something you can revisit, say, 10 years later and still have fun playing. And, some of the interfaces have aged a little bit, but I can play UFO Enemy Unknown just fine. It's not the clearest interface, it's a little clunky by modern standards, but it still plays very well. Locomotion isn't actually that old, it's maybe, 2004, I think? So it's less than 10 years old. And then Civilization, very, very kindly they update that game every 5 years or so. So Civ 5 is, although long-term fans of the series have some complaints over Civ 5, it's still a very fun game that captures kind of the essence of Civilization that is leading a group of people to greatness that I do so enjoy. So, that tells me I should probably do more videos on strategy games, but, there you have it. And we go from one meaty question to another. Avoidable Singer HD says, "Hey Stuart, what advice would you give to anyone who would like to get into creating gaming content here on YouTube?" Single best piece of advice I can give you is to be content to play to an empty room. Because when you first start out on YouTube, you don't have an audience. You might have a couple of people that you know that you can cajole into watching your videos, but you need to be able to play to an empty room. That means basically you need to be able to produce content even if nobody watches it. It's not easy building an audience, and it's easy to lose an audience if you change direction too often. And it seems to me that people maybe aren't prepared to pay their dues when it comes to gaining an audience on YouTube. They think, that it's easy, that YouTube does the work for them, when that simply isn't the case. There are some people out there who did get massive channels by luck, large elements of luck. But at the same time, they still had to produce regular content. They were fortunate, they got a leg up by whatever fortune circumstance handed them. Maybe they started at the right time, maybe they did the right game, maybe, some games become incredibly popular. And if, you're one of the guys who's doing that early on, then, you do sort of benefit as a result. Sometimes a channel will grow on viral videos, but you can't plan virality. You can engineer videos that might go viral, short, funny videos, I guess, but it's no way to build a sustainable channel. My route to success was with the Modern Warfare 2 weapon guides. That was basically an entire year's worth of hard work, which, for the most duration of the MW2 weapon guides, I wasn't getting stellar view counts. I think on the first maybe 10 or 20 videos, I was maybe getting 500 views per video. Maybe 500 to 1,000, maybe to a few thousand by the midpoint of the series. But my subscriber count only reached 10,000, I think, once I'd started the Black Ops stuff, or slightly before. I think it was Black Ops when I reached 10,000 subscribers. Which was, that was over a year after I started my channel. And I don't think things are that different these days. I think if you're going for the long haul, expect to take a year to build up 10,000 subscribers. And that's a year of fairly consistent content that you're going to have to upload, and it has to be quality content as well. There are shortcuts sometimes, but most of those are based on luck. At the end of the day, you've got to do it for the love of simply creating content. That's really the key. If you don't enjoy creating content, you'll find that first year where you've got to pay your dues, where you've got to build up an audience, you'll find that incredibly hard because you won't enjoy it. If you're consistent, if you produce good content, and if you keep on trucking for, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, you will find a large audience. But you do need to be consistent, and like I say, if you don't enjoy producing video content, you're going to drop out long before you get an audience. So if you want to get into YouTube, do it for the sheer love of producing videos, do it for the sheer love of sharing experiences. Don't expect anything too soon because it does take time to build up momentum. And learn to play to an empty room, because you will have to do that often. Alright then, next question. Grunger101 says, have you ever been to Germany, Stu? I haven't actually, but I would like to go at some point. I'd like to do the whole Oktoberfest thing. Maybe next year, when I'm done with Black Ops 2, I might pay a visit. Just have a week of just drinking fine beers. I could dig that. I think I'd like that. This year I'm off to Brussels for a few days, in about a week and a half, in fact. I'm not sure how that's going to impact my video schedule. I might try and get one prepared ahead of time, but you'll probably miss a bonus footage. As for the main video on Sunday, I think what I might do is I might do a couple of secondaries, because those videos are a little bit shorter, slightly easier to put together. So what I'll do is it'll be the Python and the Strela 3. Yes, I know. I'll batch those together though. So I'll do 2 in 1 week, and then I'll have a week off for holiday. So hopefully that'll let me continue with my schedule uninterrupted. Yogo Satan says, the FNFAL just had to pop up somewhere, Stu, didn't it? Didn't it? Hey, come on now. The FNFAL was the German service rifle for a number of years, before the G3, in fact. I mean, the M14, the G3, and the FNFAL, they were pretty much all of the battle rifles used by the Western world. So, it's worth a mention. I think people forget how significant of a rifle the FNFAL was. It was the definitive weapon of the Cold War, really. Ever Loyal Eagle says, who is your favourite James Bond actor? This is a tough question that I don't really have a satisfactory answer for. I mean, I like the James Bond films. I wouldn't count myself as a massive James Bond fan, but, I've seen a few of them. I've seen a few of the recent ones in cinemas. I grew up during the Pierce Brosnan era. And I've seen, some of the classics on the telly. But my favourite actor? I don't know. I actually don't know. I can pretty much... It's probably not Pierce Brosnan. I think he's a bit hammy for my liking. I don't mind Daniel Craig. I think he's actually a pretty good Bond, even though he is a blonde. As far as the classics, of course, everybody likes Roger Moore and Sean Connery. I don't know. I couldn't pick a favourite, to be perfectly honest. Anyone but Pierce Brosnan. There's my answer. Alright, next question. Mr. Raygun Guy says, Stu, what was your first video game ever? Another tough question, actually, because I think the first game that I ever played is actually beyond the veil of my available memory. It must have been when I was very, very young. Because I don't remember a time when I wasn't playing video games. Now, photographic records tell me that I had access to an Atari 2600, and there are photos of me in the same room as Pac-Man on the 2600, which I believe was a terrible conversion, but, hey, times were hard. So that would place that at around 1985, 1986, that sort of era. Pac-Man is a very possible game. Other games, after the Atari 2600, I believe we had a ZX Spectrum. Well, I know we had a ZX Spectrum. There's no believing about it. And that actually came with 2 games. That came with Daley Thompson's Decathlon and The Never-Ending Story, both 128k games, which were kind of new for the time. So Daley Thompson Super Test, that was definitely one of the first games I played, which is actually a pretty gosh darn good game. It was a joystick waggler. Basically, you had to move your joystick left and right to speed up your character, or to give yourself power for one of the other events. I think I lost more than a couple of joysticks to that, you know. It was hell on the micro-switches. Christmas of 1991, that was when I got my first Amiga. That was when I was dragged screaming into the 16-bit era. The first game I played on that, I can't remember precisely which one it was. I got the Cartoon Classics pack, and with that I got the following games. I got Lemmings, I got Captain Planet, oh my word, what a game. And, Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants, which had a fantastic animated intro, as I remember. Of those three, I couldn't tell you which I played first. Possibly Bart Simpson, but you can rest assured that I played all three of those games extensively. Murtha Clown says, "Hey Stuart, if you could live in any country in the world, what would you live in and why? And you cannot choose England." Can I pick Scotland? Technically that's not England, you know. But I'll assume that you meant I cannot choose anywhere in the UK. I don't know, I mean, the prospect of living in Europe doesn't sound too bad to me. I'd probably live somewhere that doesn't have too strong of a national identity. I feel like I'd fit in better there, you know? So Belgium would be a prime candidate. I'm not saying the Belgians don't have a national identity, but compared to, you know, like the neighbouring countries, the big ones, France and Germany, I don't know. I mean, I could live in France or Germany. I probably prefer Germany for the beer. But no, Belgium sounds better. I mean, it's flat, it's peaceful, it's civilised, and I could dig it. I'm a fan of colder climates as well, so I could probably live somewhere which was a little bit colder. I'd like, I think Scandinavia. I couldn't, maybe Sweden, maybe Norway. Finland, I don't know, the Finnish are a bit weird for my tastes. I've seen that salty licorice you guys eat, it doesn't look appealing to me. But yeah, no, I could live anywhere, really. I mean, of course, naturally, you know, places where I can get hold of stuff that I need, and places that speak a language that I understand. Those are useful things to have, you know, so England will do for now. I suppose, I've not talked about America, have I? I could live in America, I guess. It would probably drive me nuts after a while. But I could live there. I have a feeling that Canada would probably be a better home for me. Seems slightly more rational than America. And of course, like I say, I don't mind the cold weather so much. The only trouble with the US and Canada is, of course, immigration laws. I can't just move in and set up shop there. Not without a green card or something similar. One of the great things about being part of the European Union is, of course, I could just live wherever I choose within the EU. Which is nice. I like that freedom. I may yet one day exercise that, although I'd have to convince the girlfriend to move along with me as well. Alright, next question. Desert June Buggy says, "Hey Stu, can we get bonus footage of you taste testing and getting drunk off the drinks from Beverage Guide Express?" Well, I don't know about getting drunk from a single drink, you know, come on. Give me some credit. I don't know, I mean, I see loads of requests for bonus footage from Beverage Guide Express, but there really isn't any bonus footage. I use pretty much all I take. There are a couple of alternate angles, there are a couple of fluffed shots, but nothing really interesting, nothing really to sort of riff over. I have a vague idea for an expansion on Beverage Guide Express, which would be kind of more of a professional show. I don't know what you call it. Maybe just Beverage Guide. Kind of like, Weapon Guide versus Weapon Guide Express. That's sort of the same thing. And I think like almost like a panel show where I get a crate of maybe 3 beverages per episode. Make it a 30-minute sort of runtime. 3 beverages, divide it into 3 10-minute slots. And you get a group of people, maybe famous guests, YouTubers or whatever. And we all sit around a table and we all sample these fine drinks. And we talk about it. We discuss where they're from, what they taste like, that sort of thing. I think that'd be quite interesting. But, well, that would require a sizable investment both in time and in money and in studio space, which I don't have at the minute. But you never know, one day, if Beverage Guide Express proves to be, if it actually builds an audience, then maybe there would be room for a full-on Beverage Guide show. That would be fun. Drinking is best when you do it with people. So you never know, maybe. I'd like to do something like that. It would be fun, I think. But it's rather dependent on the success of Beverage Guide Express, really, isn't it? As far as my plans for that series, I'm just sort of mapping out until Christmas, really. I'm thinking, try one a week until Christmas, then do a Beverage Guide review, recap all the drinks I've covered so far that year, and then, well, see how the growth's been, see how successful it's been, that sort of thing, and take it from there. Okay, next question. Dawn of the Awakening says, Stu, what consoles do you own at home? Well, I actually have, I've got two old-style Xboxes. I've got my old Premium, which has failed once and been fixed. That lives downstairs. I also have my black Elite Xbox, which has failed once and been replaced. So that's two Xboxes total. I've also got a PS3, which that lives in my office upstairs as well. I have a PS2 as well. It's principally for retro hoy, because my PS3 Slim doesn't play PS2 games. And I've got a Wii downstairs, which is actually not mine, it's the girlfriend's. Oh, and on top of that, I've also got an Atari 2600 lurking about somewhere. So, to summarise, that's two Xboxes, a PS3, a PS2, a Wii, and an Atari 2600. Six Swanson says, Stu, when did you move into your own home? And how far away from your parents did you move? Well, I moved out for the first time when I left for university. I went to the University of Sunderland, I think it was 2000, 2001. And I moved from Preston to Sunderland, which is, what is that, about 100 miles, 150 miles? Not sure. Google tells me 133 miles. Which is kind of a sizable distance, but not too bad in the grand scheme of things. Now, I left university, 2003, it was 2004. And the following summer, I lived with a friend for a couple of months in Manchester whilst I was job hunting. And then I found a job in Manchester, and, well, unfortunately, I had to move back with my parents. I say unfortunately, it wasn't that bad living with them, it's just that it was, my job was in Manchester and I was living in Preston, so it was a bit of a commute. A commute that I endured for maybe about 5 to 6 months, which was, it was like 2 hours travelling each way. So that was a bit of a grind, but we do these things because it's a job and you've got to do a job, haven't you? But I think it was 2004, maybe it was 2005. I lose track of time. I think it was like February 2004. I got my first flat in Manchester. It was quite a nice little place. It had it was like just a one-bedroom place. It was split across 2 floors. I had kind of like a living room and a kitchenette upstairs, and then the bedroom and the bathroom was downstairs in the basement. But it was very cosy. I liked it. It was relatively inexpensive too, which is always nice. And then from there, I actually got a flat with my girlfriend, I think 3 years later. And then I bought my own home. When was it? Must have been 2009, I think. And since then, I've been in the same place. I've been a homeowner for about, 3 years now. Alright, next question. Mashimama Respawn says, Hey Stu, did you get the Moab in the clip around 5 minutes? I know you were close. No, I think I fluffed it on a 20 streak. Such is the nature of free-for-all. Eventually you're going to get spawned behind and shot in the back. Or a gunfight's just not going to go your way. Hero 10,000 says, Hey Stu, you probably aren't going to answer this, but who do you like better game-wise? And who do you like better character-wise? Mario or Sonic? I've always fallen onto the Sega side. We're not talking about Sonic today, but back in the day, Sonic was my game of choice. It was fast, it was action-packed, and it was cool. Mario, Nintendo, kind of lame. This sort of fanboyism is coloured by the fact that I had access to a Sega Mega Drive, but not to Nintendo. So, you get coloured by the platforms you have access to. But even now, I still prefer Sonic. It's a more of a fun game. Mario has kind of evolved beyond being just a plumber, but at the end of the day, that's what he is. He is a plumber. Being a plumber isn't cool, I'm sorry. Blue Tiger Ninja says, Hey Stuart, 2 questions. What's your favourite COD? Oh, well, if we're talking about, to play right now, I'd probably tell you MW3. COD 4's hacked, MW2 is just full of quick-scopers and noob-tubers. So if I want to sort of scratch that free-for-all itch, MW3 is the way to go. It's the COD I've had the most enjoyment out of over the last short while. I don't mind Black Ops. Black Ops is good, but I find it lacks the pacing. And I prefer the slightly higher weapon damages that you've got in MW3. However, if we're talking all time, then, well, you know, yeah, you've got to say COD 4. I mean, that's the one that started me off in the multiplayer. And it lacks some of the polish of the later Call of Duties, you know, like the final kill cams and some of the other sort of neater features, like 2 attachments and that sort of thing. But COD 4 is, I mean, the single player is by far my favourite single player campaign. And it started me off in the multiplayer, so you've got to give it credit for that. The second question was, what's your favourite gun from all of COD? I'm going to say the P90 from COD 4. That was always my favourite SMG. Anyway, we're actually, we're coming to the end of the footage now, as we can tell by all the game-winning kills that I've got. So I guess I shall do my wrap and tell you what's coming up next. This week on Ahoy Xbox, as well as this bonus footage, you'll also have another beverage guide, as like every Friday. This time it's a Polish vodka, which is finally not a lager, something interesting. It's a pretty good episode. The only thing about it is I fluffed the pour shot. You'll notice I bump the glass as I pour it. You'll see, you'll see. Anyway, on my main channel, Xbox Ahoy, what have we got coming up? We have the MPL weapon guide for Black Ops. And of course, it's all Black Ops from here on out until we finish that series. After this week's episode, there will be 11 left. And then there'll be one every single week until it's done. After that, like I say, I might take a couple of weeks off, but there's also going to be a couple of special videos, like one-offs. So, until I see you next, farewell.